I can still hear the sound of champagne glasses shattering against the marble floor. That was the moment I destroyed my granddaughter's engagement party, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. My name is Dorothy, and I'm 67 years old. I've lived in the same house in Savannah, Georgia for 43 years. The house where I raised my daughter. The house where I watched my granddaughter take her first steps. The house where I learned that sometimes love means becoming the villain in someone else's story. Let me take you back to where this all began. My granddaughter, Melissa, was always the dreamer in our family. She had her mother's auburn hair and her grandfather's stubborn streak. After she graduated from art school in Atlanta, she moved back to Savannah to open a small gallery downtown. It wasn't making her rich, but it made her happy. And that was enough for me. Then she met Vincent. Vincent Palmer came into her gallery one Tuesday afternoon in March. He was tall, well-dressed, and spoke with the kind of confidence that makes young women forget to ask important questions. He bought 3 paintings that day. 3 paintings and my granddaughter's heart. Within 2 months, they were dating exclusively. Within 6 months, he had moved into her apartment. Within a year, he was proposing with a diamond ring that probably cost more than my car. I should have been happy for her. I wasn't. You see, I recognized something in Vincent that Melissa couldn't see. Something that took me decades to understand in my own life. My late husband, Richard, God rest his soul, was a good man. But before Richard, there was someone else. Someone I rarely talk about. Someone who taught me that monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they look like Prince Charming. His name was Gerald, and I was 19 when I met him. He was charming, successful, and made me feel like the most special woman in the world for the first 3 months. Then came the comments about my clothes, then my hair, then my friends, then my family. By the time I realized what was happening, I had lost myself completely. It took me 2 years and 3 broken ribs to finally leave. So when I watched Vincent interact with Melissa, I saw things that others missed. I saw the way his jaw tightened when she laughed too loud at a party. I saw how he would touch her elbow just a little too firmly when he wanted her to stop talking. I saw the way she started apologizing for everything, for her opinions, for her art, for breathing. But I told myself I was projecting. I told myself that not every confident man is a predator. I told myself that my past was making me paranoid. Then came the dinner party. It was Melissa's 28th birthday. My daughter, Catherine, had organized a small gathering at her house. Just family and a few close friends. Vincent arrived late, which was unusual for him. He was always meticulously punctual. Something I had noticed was a control thing rather than a respect thing. When he walked in, he kissed Melissa on the cheek and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Sorry I'm late, everyone. Melissa gave me the wrong time. You know how she is with details." Melissa's face flushed red. I'm sure I told you 7. Vincent laughed, that charming, dismissive laugh. "Sweetheart, you told me 8. But it's fine. We all know you're a bit scattered. It's part of your charm." Everyone chuckled politely. Because that's what you do when someone makes a joke at someone else's expense. You laugh to ease the tension. You become complicit without even realizing it. But I watched Melissa's eyes. I saw the doubt creeping in. I saw her questioning her own memory. I saw the first cracks forming in her confidence. Throughout dinner, it continued. Small comments wrapped in humor. Little jabs disguised as affection. "Melissa made the salad tonight. Don't worry," I supervised. "We all remember the Thanksgiving incident. She's been trying to learn to cook properly. I've been sending her YouTube tutorials. She's a work in progress, but I'm patient." "Did you see her new painting at the gallery? It's interesting. Very abstract. I keep telling her she should try something more commercial, but you know, artists. They think starving is romantic." Each comment was followed by that same laugh, that same pat on her hand, that same look that said, "I'm joking, don't be so sensitive." And each time, Melissa smiled. That tight, practiced smile I remembered from my own past. The smile that says, "If I just go along with it, maybe it will stop." After dinner, I found Melissa alone in the kitchen, washing dishes. Her hands were shaking. "Honey," I said softly, "are you okay?" She didn't turn around. "I'm fine, Grandma. Just tired." The things Vincent said tonight. She spun around then, and I saw something in her eyes that broke my heart. Defensiveness, the need to protect her abuser. He was joking, Grandma. That's just his sense of humor. You don't understand him like I do. I understand more than you think. You don't, her voice cracked. You've never liked him. I don't know why, but you've never given him a chance. He loves me. He wants to marry me. Why can't you just be happy for me? What could I say? That I recognized the pattern? That I had lived it? That I could see exactly where this road led? Instead, I said nothing. I hugged her and told her I loved her and went home wondering if I was wrong, hoping I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong. The engagement party was scheduled for the following month. Vincent's family was flying in from Connecticut. His father was some kind of investment banker. His mother sat on the boards of several charities. Old money, the kind of family that makes everything look perfect from the outside. The week before the party, I did something I'm not proud of. I hired a private investigator. I know what you're thinking. What kind of grandmother hires a PI to investigate her granddaughter's fiancé? The paranoid kind, the kind who has seen too much, the kind who would rather be wrong and embarrassed than right and silent. His name was Marcus Webb. He was a former police detective with a good reputation and reasonable rates. I told him everything, my concerns, my past, my fears. He listened without judgment and told me he would see what he could find. 3 days before the engagement party, Marcus called me. "Mrs. Dorothy," he said, "I think you need to come to my office." I drove downtown with my heart pounding. Part of me hoped he had found nothing. Part of me knew better. Marcus had a folder on his desk, a thick folder. "Vincent Palmer," he began, "is not who he claims to be. Or rather, he is who he claims to be. But there's a lot he hasn't mentioned." He opened the folder. In 2018, a woman named Rachel Thornton filed a restraining order against him in New Haven, Connecticut. She claimed he had been stalking her after their breakup. The order was granted but then mysteriously withdrawn 3 months later. My stomach turned. In 2020, another woman, Jennifer Walsh. She filed a police report claiming Vincent had assaulted her during an argument. The case was dropped when she refused to testify. A month later, she moved to California. I managed to track her down. She wouldn't talk to me on the record, but off the record, she said the Palmer family paid her $50,000 to go away. Oh my God. There's more. In 2021, a woman named Stephanie Brooks attempted suicide. She was Vincent's girlfriend at the time. She survived, thankfully. She spent 3 months in a psychiatric facility. Her medical records are sealed, but I spoke to her sister. She said Stephanie told her that Vincent had systematically destroyed her self-esteem over 2 years. Made her believe she was worthless. Made her believe no one else would ever love her. Made her believe the world would be better without her. I couldn't breathe. "The Palmer family has a pattern," Marcus continued. "Every time Vincent leaves destruction in his wake, they clean it up. They pay off victims. They make problems disappear. They protect their son at all costs. Why hasn't anyone stopped him? Because he's never done anything that can stick in court. He's too smart for that. He uses psychological manipulation, not physical violence. He destroys women from the inside out. By the time they realize what's happening, they're too broken to fight back, and his family has enough money to silence the ones who try." I sat in that office for an hour, reading through the folder. 3 women, 3 lives damaged or destroyed. And now my granddaughter was next. That night, I called my daughter. "Catherine, we need to talk about Vincent." "Mom? Not this again." "I hired a private investigator." Silence. "You did what?" I told her everything. The restraining order, the assault charge, Stephanie Brooks, the payoffs, all of it. When I finished, Catherine was quiet for a long moment. "Mom," she finally said, "I don't know what to say. Say you'll help me stop this. Melissa loves him. If we go to her with this, she'll think we're attacking him. She'll choose him over us. I've seen it happen to other families. So what do we do? Just let her marry a monster? I don't know. I need to think. The engagement party is in 3 days. Can we just get through that and then figure out what to do?" I agreed, but I had no intention of waiting. The engagement party was held at the Palmer family estate. a sprawling property outside of Savannah that they had purchased as a southern retreat. The house was immaculate, the gardens were perfect, the guests were wealthy and well-connected, and my granddaughter had never looked more beautiful, or more trapped. I watched her throughout the evening, performing the role of the happy fiancé, laughing at Vincent's jokes, agreeing with his opinions, apologizing when she accidentally interrupted him, shrinking herself to fit into the space he allowed her. Vincent's parents were exactly what I expected. His father, Richard Palmer Sr., had the kind of handshake that communicates dominance. His mother, Evelyn, had the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. They were polished, polite, and completely hollow. During cocktail hour, I found myself standing near Evelyn at the bar. "You must be Dorothy," she said, her voice like honeyed poison, "Melissa's grandmother. She speaks so highly of you, and you must be Evelyn. I've heard a lot about your family." Something flickered in her eyes, just for a moment. "All good things, I hope." "Mostly." She studied me then, with the kind of gaze that assessed threats. "Melissa is a lovely girl. A bit rough around the edges, perhaps, but Vincent sees potential in her. He has a gift for bringing out the best in people." "Does he?" "Oh yes. His last girlfriend, before Melissa, she was quite troubled. Vincent tried so hard to help her, but some people simply can't be saved." She was talking about Stephanie Brooks, the woman who tried to kill herself, and she was framing it as Stephanie's failure, not her son's abuse. I felt physically ill. Dinner was served in the grand dining room. 50 guests at a long table, with Vincent and Melissa at the head. The food was exquisite, the wine was expensive, and I couldn't taste any of it. After the main course, Vincent's father stood to make a toast. "I'd like to welcome everyone to this celebration of love." When Vincent told us he had found someone special in Georgia, we were curious. Our son has high standards. After all, polite laughter. But meeting Melissa, we understand completely. She's charming, artistic, and clearly devoted to our son. With a little guidance, she'll fit right into our family. More laughter. As if Melissa were a project to be completed rather than a person to be loved. Then Vincent stood. "Thank you, Dad. I have to say, when I walked into that little gallery in Savannah, I never expected to find my future wife. Melissa was, well, let's just say she was a diamond in the rough." He looked at her with that smile, that predatory smile disguised as affection. She couldn't cook. She dressed like a bohemian. Her apartment was a disaster, and her business sense was non-existent. But I saw something in her, potential, and I've spent the last year helping her reach that potential. Melissa's face was frozen in that familiar smile, but I could see her hands trembling beneath the table. "She's not perfect yet," Vincent continued. "She still talks too much at parties, she still cries at silly movies, she still forgets to put gas in her car until the light comes on. But that's what marriage is about, right? Finding someone whose flaws you can fix. And I've got a lifetime to fix Melissa's little flaws." The room erupted in laughter and applause, and something inside me snapped. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember walking to the head of the table. I don't remember taking the microphone from the DJ's stand. But I remember the moment everyone fell silent. I remember the look on Vincent's face when he realized something was about to happen that he couldn't control. "Good evening, everyone," I said. My voice was steady, even though my hands were shaking. "For those who don't know me, I'm Dorothy, Melissa's grandmother. I'd like to say a few words." Vincent's smile tightened. "Of course, Dorothy. How sweet." I looked at my granddaughter. Her eyes were wide with fear. Fear of what I might say. Fear of embarrassing Vincent. Fear of everything. "Melissa," I said, speaking directly to her, "I need you to hear this. Not as your grandmother, but as a woman who has lived this story before. Grandma, please." When I was 19 years old, I met a man named Gerald. He was charming and successful and made me feel special. For about 3 months, then he started pointing out my flaws. Small things at first. The way I dressed. The way I spoke. The friends I kept. He said he was helping me become a better person. He said he loved me enough to be honest. He said my family didn't understand him. The room was silent. Vincent's face had turned to stone. By the time I realized what was happening, I had lost myself completely. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't trust my own memories. I apologized for existing, and when I finally tried to leave, he broke 3 of my ribs. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. I hired a private investigator, I continued. I'm not proud of it, but I was desperate. And what I found about Vincent Palmer terrified me. Vincent stood up. This is ridiculous. Melissa, tell your grandmother to stop. But Melissa didn't move. She was staring at me with something I hadn't seen in her eyes for a long time. Hope. In 2018, a woman named Rachel Thornton filed a restraining order against Vincent. It was mysteriously withdrawn after his family got involved. Gasps from the guests. Vincent's father rose to his feet. This is defamation. You have no right. In 2020, Jennifer Walsh filed an assault charge against him. She was paid $50,000 to drop the case and move across the country. That's a lie. In 2021, a woman named Stephanie Brooks tried to end her own life after 2 years with your son. She spent 3 months in a psychiatric facility. Your son broke her so completely that she saw no other way out. The room erupted in chaos. Guests were whispering, shouting, standing up from their seats. Vincent's mother was screaming something about lawyers. Vincent himself was advancing toward me with murder in his eyes. But I held my ground. Melissa, I know you love him. I know you think I don't understand, but I do understand, better than anyone, and I am begging you, as someone who survived this, please don't marry this man. He will destroy you, piece by piece, day by day, until you don't recognize yourself anymore. And by then, it might be too late. Vincent grabbed my arm. Hard. You crazy old bitch, he hissed. You've ruined everything. And in that moment, in front of 50 witnesses, his mask finally slipped. Everyone saw it. The rage, the contempt, the monster behind the charming smile. Melissa saw it too. Let go of her, she said quietly. Vincent didn't seem to hear her. His grip tightened on my arm. I said, let go of my grandmother. He turned to her, his face contorted with anger. Melissa, your grandmother is mentally unstable. She's making up stories. We need to... I said, let go. Her voice was different now, stronger, like something had finally broken free inside her. Vincent released my arm, but the damage was done. His perfect mask had cracked, and everyone had seen what was underneath. Melissa stood up from her chair, slowly, deliberately. She looked at Vincent for a long moment, and I saw 20 years of my own history reflected in her eyes. The confusion, the self-doubt, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong about everything. Then she took off her engagement ring. I think, she said slowly. I need some time to think. Vincent's face twisted. Melissa, don't be ridiculous. This is your grandmother's paranoid delusions. You can't possibly believe. I've been making excuses for you, Melissa interrupted. Every time you criticized me in public, every time you made me doubt my own memory, every time I apologized for having feelings. I told myself it was just your sense of humor. I told myself I was too sensitive. I told myself that love was supposed to hurt sometimes. Tears were streaming down her face now. But it's not. Is it? Love isn't supposed to make you feel small. Love isn't supposed to make you apologize for existing. Love isn't supposed to make you forget who you are. She placed the ring on the table. I'm leaving, and I don't want you to follow me. What happened next was chaos. Vincent's parents threatening lawsuits. Vincent himself alternating between rage and desperate pleading. Guests streaming out of the dining room, desperate to escape the scene. My daughter Catherine appearing at my side, her face a mixture of shock and pride. And Melissa, walking out of that house with her head held high for the first time in over a year. I drove her home that night. We didn't talk much at first. The silence was filled with everything that had happened and everything that still needed to be said. Finally, when we were almost at her apartment, she spoke. How did you know? I told you. I've lived this story before. No. I mean... She paused, struggling with the words. How did you know I would believe you? How did you know I wouldn't just choose him? I thought about that for a long moment. I didn't, I admitted. I thought there was a good chance you would hate me forever. I thought you might never speak to me again, but I decided that was a price I was willing to pay. Why? I pulled into her parking lot and turned to face her. Because 30 years from now, I wanted you to be alive. I wanted you to have a chance at happiness, even if that happiness didn't include me. Even if you spent the rest of your life believing I was a paranoid old woman who ruined your wedding, at least you would have a life. At least you would have the chance to figure out the truth on your own terms." Melissa broke down then, sobbing in my arms like she was 5 years old again, crying over a scraped knee. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry I didn't listen." "You're listening now. That's all that matters." That was 3 months ago. Vincent has not contacted Melissa since that night. I suspect his family's lawyers advised him to stay away. There were too many witnesses to his outburst. Too many people heard the accusations. Too much risk of everything unraveling if he pushed too hard. I heard through the grapevine that the Palmers cut short their southern retreat. They sold the estate and retreated back to Connecticut, running away from the mess their son created, just like they always have. Rachel Thornton, the woman who filed the original restraining order, reached out to Melissa after someone told her what happened at the engagement party. They've been talking regularly. I think it helps Melissa to know she wasn't alone, that she wasn't crazy, that other women saw exactly what she saw, even when everyone around them insisted there was nothing to see. Melissa is in therapy now, twice a week. She's learning to trust her own perceptions again. She's learning that she has the right to take up space in the world. She's learning that her art is valuable, even if it's not commercial. She's learning to be herself again. It's a slow process. Some days are better than others. Some days she still wakes up doubting herself. Some days she still reaches for her phone to apologize to Vincent before remembering she has nothing to apologize for. But she's getting better. Day by day. Week by week. Last Sunday, she came over for dinner. Just the two of us. She brought a painting she had been working on. It was abstract, chaotic, and absolutely beautiful. "What do you think?" she asked, nervous. "I think it's magnificent." Vincent would have hated it. "Too emotional," he would have said. "Too messy, not marketable." Good thing Vincent's opinion doesn't matter anymore. She smiled. A real smile. The first one I'd seen in over a year. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Anything. Do you regret it? What you did at the engagement party? I mean, you risked everything. Our whole family could have turned against you. I could have chosen him. It could have gone so wrong." I thought about her question. I thought about all the ways that night could have ended differently. I thought about the look on Vincent's face when he grabbed my arm. I thought about the sound of champagne glasses shattering as guests fled the chaos. "No," I said finally. "I don't regret it. Not for a single second. But what if I had chosen him? What if I had believed him over you? Then I would have lost you. And that would have broken my heart. But at least I would have known that I tried. At least I would have known that I didn't stand by and watch you walk into a nightmare without doing everything in my power to stop it." Melissa was quiet for a moment. "You know what I keep thinking about? That woman, Stephanie, the one who tried to disparate, who almost didn't survive. Yes, she didn't have anyone to fight for her, did she? No one to stand up at her engagement party and tell the truth. No one willing to become the villain to save her. No, she didn't. You saved my life, Grandma. I know it sounds dramatic, but I really believe that. If I had married Vincent, if I had spent years with him, I don't know who I would have become. I don't know if I would have survived." I reached across the table and took her hand. "You're stronger than you know, Melissa. You always have been. I just helped you remember that." She squeezed my hand. "Thank you for being willing to be the villain. Honey, being the villain in a bad story is a small price to pay for being the hero in a good one." The Palmer family's lawyers sent a cease and desist letter 2 weeks after the engagement party. They demanded I retract my defamatory statements and apologize publicly. They threatened to sue for damages if I ever spoke about Vincent again. I showed the letter to my own lawyer, who laughed and filed it in the trash. "Truth is an absolute defense against defamation," he said. "And you have evidence. Let them sue. It would be the worst decision they ever made." They never sued. Of course they didn't, because a lawsuit would mean discovery. It would mean depositions. It would mean all those silenced women finally having a chance to tell their stories under oath. The Palmers may be rich, but they're not stupid. They know when to cut their losses. I still think about those women sometimes. Rachel, who was brave enough to file a restraining order. Jennifer, who reported an assault even though she knew the system would fail her. Stephanie, who survived the unsurvivable and is still rebuilding her life somewhere in Ohio. They deserved better. They all deserved better. But maybe, in some small way, what happened at that engagement party gave them something too. Maybe knowing that Vincent Palmer was finally exposed, even if just to a room full of wealthy dinner guests, gave them a tiny bit of closure. Maybe knowing that someone finally stood up and said, "This man is dangerous," helped them feel less alone. I hope so. I really hope so. As for me, I sleep better now than I have in years. For the first time since Melissa met Vincent, I don't wake up in the middle of the night with my heart pounding, terrified of what the future might hold. My granddaughter is safe. She is healing. She is finding her way back to herself. And yes, I destroyed her engagement party. I ruined her relationship. I stood up in front of 50 people and accused her fiancé of being an abuser. I became the villain in her story. But here's what I've learned in my 67 years on this earth. Sometimes love requires you to do terrible things. Sometimes protecting someone means hurting them first. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is tell a truth that no one wants to hear. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the person you're trying to save will eventually understand. Melissa understood. It took time, but she understood. And that's all that matters. If you're watching this and you recognize something in Melissa's story, if you see yourself in her forced smiles and constant apologies and shrinking sense of self, please listen to me. You deserve better. You deserve someone who loves you for who you are, not for who they can turn you into. You deserve someone who builds you up, not someone who tears you down under the guise of helping you improve. You deserve to take up space in this world without apologizing for existing. And if someone in your life is trying to tell you that your partner isn't who they seem to be, please listen to them, even if you don't believe them at first, even if it makes you angry, even if it feels like they're trying to destroy your happiness. Because the people who love you, the people who really see you, they can sometimes see things that you can't. Not because you're stupid or naive, but because love is blind, and abusers are very, very good at what they do. One moment of horror and pain is better than a lifetime of horror and pain. I learned that lesson the hard way. I hope my story helps you learn it a little easier. Thank you for watching. And please, love each other, fiercely, protectively, even when it's hard, even when it makes you the villain, because that's what real love looks like.